Nothing says London quite like a bright red bus weaving its way around a major landmark, except sometimes these very buses crop up outside of London entirely. In fact, by my count, there are 25 towns that don't belong to the capital at all in which you'll find them, and I'm here to give you a quick virtual tour of them all. Just to add, this is more than just a gimmick, as these buses, which fall under the control of Transport for London, follow the same pricing plan, which includes a daily cap for instance, and Lord knows we could all do with spending a bit less on public transport, what with various price hikes occurring lately. And to keep you guessing, I've arranged this as a list of towns in order of approximate distance to the Charles I statue in Trafalgar Square, since that's the largely agreed upon exact centre of London. So we'll start with the nearest town and ripple our way out. Without further ado, let's hop on board and get this tour started. The first town out of the capital accessible by London bus is Buckhurst Hill in Essex. This is a name that should be familiar to regular users of the Central Line on the London Underground, which, by the way, is also a misnomer since that too strays from the capital in some instances. So close is Buckhurst Hill to Greater London that there isn't even any green belt land directly between the two. In addition to the Central Line, direct buses from Ilford and Walthamstow get you here. Staying in Essex and also accessible via Central Line is Chigwell, a town described by Charles Dickens as the greatest place in the world. A little hyperbolic perhaps, but the celebrities of today seem to love it, being as it's home to a handful of Essex and East London's nouveau riche. But the humble London bus serves the town, with direct services from Ilford on the same route as the previous entry of Buckhurst Hill. Over to Hertfordshire next, and fittingly enough to the town in which On the Buses was filmed, Boreham Wood. Being home to Elstree Studios, this is a town with a vast heritage in the film and TV industry, whose notable productions include everything from Star Wars to EastEnders. The red buses serve the town from the directions of Edgware, New Barnet and Colindale, although Stan Butler won't be driving. At the other end of Hertfordshire, and the first entry outside the M25, is Waltham Cross, a town whose name references its most famous landmark, a cross dedicated to Eleanor of Castile, wife of Edward I. One of a series of crosses that mark the stops taken along the route to her resting place in Westminster Abbey following her death in 1290. Funnily enough, there's actually a night bus that takes you between here and the next cross along, Charing Cross, which I can only assume is intended as a nod to its history. During the day, buses are available from Turnpike Lane, Manor House, Enfield and Edmonton. Back inside the M25, we're off to the races and the Surrey town of Epsom. Here's a town synonymous with its racecourse, which comes alive around May and June of each year as it hosts the Epsom Oaks and Epsom Derby. Whether or not you fancy a punt, you can reach the town, as well as neighbouring Ewell, often referred to as a village, via buses from the directions of West Croydon, Morden, Surbiton and Kingston. Now for the third of three Essex towns accessible via both Central Line and London bus, Loughton, with Epping Forest right on its doorstep serving as the green belt buffer between here and London. This town can be reached via bus services from Ilford and Walthamstow, if you're looking for an alternative to the tube, that is. Pinging back to Surrey, we come to Banstead. This was once a rival horse racing town to neighbouring Epsom, with both having a heritage in that regard going back to the 17th century before the latter went on to become one of the country's leading venues, whereas Banstead pulled up, so to speak. As far as horsepower goes, London buses will get you here from the directions of West Croydon and Mitcham. Next, we're dipping back outside of the M25 and to the northernmost town accessible via London bus, Potters Bar. This is the only town to have switched from Middlesex to Hertfordshire following the dissolution of the former in 1965. and it feels somewhat fitting that this most northerly outpost should contain an entire garage full of the iconic red livery. Buses of their kind shuttle passengers to and from the capital via this town in the directions of Arnos Grove, Chingford and Finchley Central. Back within the M25 once again, we come to what appears to be the most expensive town of this video, Esher. With an average property price of just short of £1 million at the time of making this, you'd do well to buy a house here. The good news is transport to Esher is a lot more affordable, courtesy of a direct bus service from Roehampton Vale, calling at Kingston and Surbiton along the way. Staying in the county of Surrey, although historically crossing into Middlesex, our next town is Sunbury-on-Thames. Not only is this town served by London Bus, this may well be a preferable alternative to the trains which dump you into the rather brutalist town centre, whereas the historic riverside portion of the town, as pictured here, is served nicely by buses from the directions of Kingston and Brentford, with additional services stopping short of the river from Hounslow and Twickenham. Now to Hertfordshire and an oft overlooked town, Bushey. Just like the previous entry of Sunbury, Bushey's railway station is somewhat separate from the historic town centre, so all the more reason to come here by bus, and it might be worth it just for the churchyard alone, one of the prettiest in the country I'd say. Direct services serve the town from the directions of South Harrow and Brent Cross. Switching in the complete opposite direction, we come to the first of a trio of towns in Kent, Swanley. During the late 19th century, this was a popular destination for London-based doctors to send their patients to escape the smog of the capital, although today it's much more a commuter hub than a rural retreat, and served by buses from Eltham, passing Sidcup along the way. Staying in Kent, we now come to the spiritual home of the Rolling Stones, Dartford. The town where Mick met Keith is seemingly denied its due fame in rock and roll history to a degree due to London's claim to the Stones. The capital is nevertheless on its doorstep, with London buses serving it from the directions of Woolwich, Erith and Sidcup, and carrying on to Blue Water Shopping Centre in each case. Now back to Middlesex in the historic sense, and Surrey in the modern sense, and the town of Ashford. Not to be confused with Ashford in Kent, which is closer to France than it is to London. This Ashford is right on the fringe of the capital, and you might say the wider world, with Heathrow Airport just a few miles away, and a more functional transport hub than the Kent namesake's International Railway Station, by the way. Buses are available from the directions of Hounslow, Isleworth, Kingston and Twickenham. Way south of the river now, our next town is home to an oddly situated terminus station, Caterham. As with previous entries, this is a town with two centres, one on a hill and the other in the valley, with the aforementioned railway station serving the latter. The red buses accommodate both, with services from Addington near Croydon reaching the hill, from Sutton for the valley, and from Coulsdon for either. In another direction entirely is our final Hertfordshire town, Watford. Being home to the deceptively named Warner Brothers Studio Tour London, the Harry Potter fans who come here in their droves may be left slightly confused by its actual location, and more still if they see the red buses passing through. Of course, we've already established that this bus network does in fact go north of Watford, to coin a phrase, by way of Potter's Bar. As for Watford itself, well, just like its neighbour Bushey, it's served by buses from South Harrow and Brent Cross. And now to the town that's altered its name because of, allegedly, Sacha Baron Cohen, Staines-upon-Thames. When comedic character Ali G debuted in the late 90s, his portrayal as being a wannabe gangster from this affluent suburban riverside town put the spotlight on Staines. evidently to such an uncomfortable degree that the council later added the upon Thames suffix, likely to distance itself from the entire association, whether or not they claim otherwise. In any case, buses reach here from the directions of Isleworth, Kingston and Twickenham. Next, we have one of two towns from the unitary authority of Thurrock, Aveley. With the industrial Thames estuary, the Dartford crossing and the M25 right in its vicinity, Aveley seemingly defies nature with its small town, or some might say village-like feel. A lack of a railway station may have something to do with it, but a London bus service from Hornchurch keeps Aveley connected to the capital just around the corner, and to Lakeside Shopping Centre in the other direction. Now we head outside of the M25, and for good this time, as we come to the Surrey town of Leatherhead. So to anyone of the belief that the M25 orbital motorway is the border of London, hopefully this video puts that misconception to bed. What with 16 out of the last 18 entries coming from within, and yet the London buses aren't afraid to venture out of said giant ring road, as with Leatherhead, which is connected to the capital via a direct service from Kingston. Staying in Surrey, we come to a town whose name comes from the colour of the soil on a small hill near Reigate, Redhill. Having grown from almost nothing before the railways arrived to a town of over 32,000 residents today, Redhill has the feel of a satellite town, whether or not it meets the strict definition. Aside from the railway station largely responsible for its rapid growth, the town is served by buses of an appropriately red colour to and from Croydon, calling at the neighbouring Surrey village of Merstham along the way. And so to the second of our two Thurrock towns, South Ockendon. In common with neighbouring Aveley, the town is served by a bus bound for Lakeside Shopping Centre on the Essex side, but in South Ockendon's case to Romford on the London side. This comes with the quirk of passing through London's one and only area outside the M25, that being North Ockendon. Now to the last of the Kentish trio, as it were, and the town of Westerham. This is arguably the prettiest town accessible by London bus, although the final town to feature is also a contender. Westerham's Georgian staging post aesthetic comes as quite a pleasant shock for visitors on the bus from Bromley, when the urban sprawl of southeast London gives way abruptly to the scenery you're looking at. Next is the eastern extremity of the London bus network, the town of Brentwood. It's this Essex town that's said to have been the flashpoint that sparked the Peasants' Revolt of 1381 in protest of the punitive taxes levied on the already poor citizens. Whilst Wat Tyler's uprising fell short just outside the gates of London, residents of Brentwood today can reach the capital in its much expanded form via bus service to Romford. And at the western extreme of the network is a rather maligned town, Slough. Say what you will about Slough, it is home to Europe's largest trading estate, and it's close to Windsor, and you can reach London with a single bus ride to Hounslow, so what's not to love? But finally, the town farthest from the centre of London, and a whopping 23 miles away at that, is Dorking. A single bus ride from Kingston will take you to this, the hometown of Laurence Olivier. With the Surrey Hills area of outstanding natural beauty providing a thick green belt buffer between the town and London, Dorking's surrounding scenery is unlike anywhere else in which these plucky red buses dare venture, and with well over 100 listed buildings in the town centre, it's doing alright on the preservation front as well, and all the more fitting that the outermost extreme of the London bus network showcases a side of England so unlike its capital. And there we have it, 25 towns and 2 major shopping centres outside London you can reach via London bus. If you spotted any errors or omissions, by all means let me know in the comments. Likewise, if you have any bus related anecdotes, of course. And until next time, thanks for watching and have a great day.